Andy just showed up.
The map couldn't handle her presence.
Welcome to Table Talk, the show about beer, board games, and everything else. I'm Rich.
And I'm Alex. And this month, we're talking about maps.
Map. What's the... Wait. I was going to sing... I had it in my head. I was like, I'm going to sing the Dora the Explorer map song. What's the song? I'm a map. I'm the map. I'm the map. I'm the map. That's the song I was trying to sing.
You're talking to a Dora the Explorer non-watcher right here.
Well, you better start.
I know. So I hear I'm missing out.
Yeah, we're talking about maps today.
Talking about maps.
This whole month is going to be all about maps, cartography. Yeah, look at the nice maps behind Alex.
You got a nice map behind you there too. I mean, look at that.
I do. Well, here, tell me about yours really quick. I want to know what yours are.
All right,
obviously,
so
the political map of the United States. Yes.
Oh. Okay. Well, for anyone who doesn't know, this is the United States,
Yes.
and this is the political map of all 50 states and the District of Columbia. So, and then of course, to my left is the New York City map, in the form of bike map. So, ladies and gentlemen, the New York City bike map right here.
Yeah, New York is a big biking city. I'll scoot to the side here.
Yeah, there you go.
So this is also a map of New York, but it's actually a water map that Andy generously donated to us. If you don't know who Andy is, that's my wife. And it is the Long Island Sound, which I think is just a great name for a body of water. It's the Long Island Sound.
Sorry. Apparently, I'm allergic.
My vibe.
Wait, I'm allergic to the Long Island Sound.
I'm trying to paint the picture of something that's beautiful sounding, and here you are sneezing while I'm saying it.
Yeah. You ever heard of the Long Island Sound? May I introduce you to the Long Island Sneeze?
Long Island Snout.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right here. Yeah. No, it looks good. I like that.
But yeah, we got our maps, and then of course I got the. Take my beer away here. The Michigan map in the back. Just kind of like that. You can't really see it, but there are actually roads and stuff on it.
No, I appreciate that, and I like that it has the north part of Michigan and the mitten of Michigan.
Yeah.
So,
the UP. The UP.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, we're talking about maps all this month. Obviously, the first episode, we're gonna do exactly what we do every single time, guys. We're gonna talk about beer and board games, and both of them are going to be map themed or likewise themed. So I'm excited to see what you got, Alex. For those of you listening, I do want to put a little caveat at the beginning of this series. We're talking about something that's very visual. So you might want to tap into the YouTube channel, Table Talk with Rich and Alex on YouTube. We're going to be sharing a lot of photos on there, probably. If you can't see the maps that we're talking about, then you're already confused. So definitely tune into the video version. We're going to do our best, and we might need to remind each other, Alex, to kind of verbalize what we're looking at for our listeners, to let them know exactly kind of what the setup is here.
Yeah.
But we'll do our best to do that. But if you are listening, check out the YouTube channel, Table Talk with Rich and Alex. If you're watching, you always know that the audio version is available: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, iHeartRadio. There's a lot of different platforms where you can listen to us. So, but yeah, we're going to do that. And then obviously all the links to the breweries, the board game publishing company, the how to play video for everything is going to be in the link in the description. Links in the description for this video for all those guys. So, Alex, go ahead and start us off. What are you drinking today?
Today I am going to be enjoying. This is one that I've looked forward to for a while. I've been wanting to try the Appalachian Mountain Brewery, which is based in Boone, North Carolina. This is known as the the Boone Creek Blonde Ale, not the Blonde Creek Boone Ale. Great start.
We created a new beer, the Boone
yeah.
Ale.
Yeah, that's
All right.
yeah. So this is the Appalachian Mountain Brewery, or Appalachian, depending on, I guess, how you pronounce it. But in particular,
what's the correct way to say it, though? How do you say it there?
I don't know. Not in Boone,
No?
anyway. I don't know.
Okay.
Haven't been to Boone yet. But one thing I really love about this is the design. I mean, look at this. It feels like your own
Yeah.
adventure in a can.
Yeah, nice little. It's got an explorer vibe going on.
So I figured this is a good vibe, and this in particular, the Appalachian Mountain Brewery, is they proudly support the We Can So You Can Foundation, which is their way to revitalize what they describe as our communities, mountains, and rivers, and that's literally like right there.
Well, that's cool. Okay.
So in my view, this was part of the kind of the map idea of like, hey, if you don't have places, there aren't any maps. So here's to the places. So yeah, that's what I'm drinking today.
There's the places. I like it. Yeah, maps don't exist without places. I like that.
Yeah. How about you? What do you got?
We can drink tasty beer, so you can drink tasty beer as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
Before I get into my before I get into my beer, I do want to ask our Googler, since she's back here. I do want to ask the right way to pronounce Appalachian. Is it Appalachian or Appalachian?
Appalachian.
What did I say? Appalachian?
No. Appalachian.
Appalachian.
It's not a sh. It's a sh. It's a slight, but you extend it a little bit.
Okay. All right. I'm probably offending a lot of people by doing this, but I apologize. I'm curious by nature, so just bear with me. But we'll see what the proper pronunciation is, at least what Google says. So I again had a hard time choosing. This is a kind of a common theme with me. I'll start with the Bell's Ale, with the Bell's beer. And we've had Bell's on the show before.
Yeah.
Many times.
Ooh, that's cool.
About 3 times now, but I couldn't pass this up. It has it's got, the light's in the way.
Oh, heck, it's got a map on it.
Yeah, it's got a map on it, and that's supposed to be Michigan. And then this is called the Lager of the Lakes. And it's a Bohemian Pilsner. What does it say down here? Bohemian Pilsner, as refreshingly crisp as a morning swim in the Great Lakes, this golden lager sparks thoughts of sandy beaches and freshwater islands.
Man.
So I wanted to kind of give this as an honorable mention. I'm not going to be drinking this. This will probably be my beer after the show. I found a much cooler one, and I kind of wanted to go outside of Michigan too, because I've been kind of favoring Michigan beers here. So I kind of wanted to do something else. So I found something really cool. All right. So this is called. It's from Omgang. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Omgang Brewery. It's in Cooperstown, New York. I believe the pronunciation of this is Hennepin.
Okay.
Does that sound right to you? Hennepin. It's a farmhouse saison ale with spices.
Oh man.
Yeah, this is a nice beer, and actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it has a cap on it, and I didn't bring my bottle cap in here with me. Maybe my Googler can help me.
No.
Get a bottle opener.
Here, bring it here. I'll open it with my teeth.
With your teeth, yeah.
Apparently that's a thing. No, don't do it. The dentist one time told me years ago. He's like, "So you don't open anything with your teeth, right?" I'm like, what do you mean? Like beer cans, beer bottles.
Right.
It's like, man, no, it's not.
Yeah,
no,
that's not a thing. No, it's kind of weird that probably he has to ask that question for some reason.
Yeah,
right?
It's like don't put your pets in the microwave to dry them off, guys. It means that someone somewhere out there unfortunately attempted that, or in the dryer. Like it doesn't work that way, guys. They are not clothes or food.
Yeah. Anytime you see a sign anywhere in public that says "Please do not do blank,"
somebody
inevitably somebody did it.
Somebody did it.
So we have an update. All right, what is it? Appalachian is what I heard, and that's from the Google. You just typed it in, and they said it. Appalachian is the right way to say it. Appalachian. All right. Now we know. There you go. Hennepin. So I looked into this. So this was actually a French explorer, French/Belgium explorer. And this is like a Belgium style beer.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So he was a French-Belgium explorer known for being one of the first to explore and map the interior of North America. He's best known for his discovery of Niagara Falls.
Wow, that's a
and
discovery.
St. Anthony Falls, the lesser known St. Anthony Falls, which is in Minnesota, which I don't even think is a natural waterfall anymore. So he's a French explorer, and a little bit about the beer itself. It's kind of one of the more fancier beers I feel like that we've had on the show for a while. So it's inspired by the traditional rustic brews of Belgium. Our iconic American farmhouse saison is charmingly complex, but eminently drinkable. That's good. That's very good.
That's good.
I'm
want
glad
our
that it's
beer,
drinkable. I'm
if
glad I
nothing
read
else,
that
to be
before.
drinkable. Yes, we want it to be drinkable.
I'm glad I read that before going any further. Artfully spiced with coriander, ginger, orange peel, and grains of paradise. Its champagne-like effervescence leads to a crisp. You know what? I'm just going to stop reading now because it's it's just beer, guys. That's all it is.
Let's partake.
Oh, little heady.
Sorry, my
little foam. Welcome back, Alex. It's always fun seeing you. Always fun hanging out. Looking forward to a good conversation on Max. Cheers to you, sir.
Cheers to you, sir. Cheers.
I have a map of hennepins that I wanted to share that I thought was interesting. I'm going to be sharing a lot of images of maps, by the way. I hope you're okay with that. All right, so that's a hennepin map right there.
Oh. I'm amazed how accurate Florida and Cuba actually are in this. Look at this.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, these people didn't have satellites. Like it's actually
right
fairly accurate. I would say California's a little off, but
yeah. There's a huge break between California and the rest of the United States. Maybe he knew something we didn't. I don't know. But I'm assuming because I'm assuming they were familiar with this area, right?
Yeah,
a little bit more, and then they kind of worked their way down because it sounds like they came from like well, where's Quebec? Do you know where Quebec is? This is going to be a great episode.
A little more.
This is going to be a great series. I don't even know where Quebec is.
Sorry, it's a little more to your right. It's near the
so over here.
Yeah.
It's East Coast,
to your left,
right?
No, it's not that far. A little over that river. Yeah, right around there.
Okay,
sort of.
So yeah, they can't. So from what I understand, they moved kind of down this way, and that's how Niagara Falls got discovered by him. So anyway, there goes my map. So yeah, anyway, that's a hennepin map. That's that. Discovered Niagara Falls. Can you imagine discovering Niagara Falls?
Well, and that's the funny thing is like he discovered Niagara Falls. There's other people that knew about it, but
no, he discovered it. He was the first one to see it ever.
He beat his brother. That was the real accomplishment, right? It was that's all he cared about, just beating his brother.
My question is, it's not necessarily that he's discovered Niagara Falls. It's the nature of how you discover Niagara Falls.
Right, right.
The first guy that actually discovered it just walked right into it, and that's why we don't know about him.
Well, what was probably originally what happened is that it was a boating cruise, and someone was like, "Hey, look at this! It looks like it's a slight dip in the water." It wasn't a dip.
It wasn't a dip.
It was an LA dip. Except
3 times it drops.
Yes, 3 times.
All right. I should keep sharing my screen anyway because we're talking about a board game that I'm so excited to share.
We've been wanting to talk about this one for a long time.
Yeah. I honestly, the whole reason that the show even exists in the first place is just an excuse for me to talk about Risk. That's all it is. So Risk is the board game for the month. It's a very map-based game, and it's arguably probably one of the most popular war games ever created. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here with you. Tell me, Alex, I don't know if we've had the Risk conversation before. Have you played? How often have you played? Or how familiar are you with this game?
I am fairly familiar, not with that edition. The edition that I was given as a gift in the late 90s, and
Okay.
I played it very frequently, middle school, high school. It has been some time, but usually my brother and I will break out Lord of the Rings Risk at least once a summer
Yes.
and
Yeah.
play that instead. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And again, sorry, we're so for you listeners, if you can't tell, we're looking at a risk board. The risk it's a board risk of conquest over a world map, basically over a political
Mhm.
map. So we're looking at I believe this is 1970s risk.
Yeah.
This is one of the first original versions of it. Um, so yeah, we're gonna dive into it. So risk is 2 to 6 players. You can play it with 2 players. I don't recommend it, but it can be done. uh, Average of 120 minutes to play.
Average people, just think of that.
Average.
Average time.
Oh man, this is a very long game. It's a big time investment. You're gonna need some time. Yeah,
Yeah.
take a weekend to
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's meant to be that way. It's meant to take a long time. It's meant to be an investment. It's a good investment if you do have the time to put towards it. For ages 10 and up, designed by Albert. I'm again horrible with last names. I apologize. Albert Lamori. It's Lamorisse. He's a French filmmaker, actually. I'll talk more about him in a second. So him and Michael Levin are listed as the designers. Like I said, it's arguably the most popular mass market war game ever created. It was first published in 1959 by Parker Brothers, and it's the earliest version I remember is the version that we're looking at right now. It's kind of the 1970s version. At least to me, it screams 1970s. Maybe it's a different one, but it's the one I remember having growing up in our house. So yeah, that's that. And then this is Albert. This is the game designer here. So yeah, so we haven't really done this yet with other games, but since I love this game so much and I'm such a huge advocate for it, I do kind of want to talk about the history behind it, and it does have a history. Not a lot of the games that we talk about.
Did Albert take a lot of risks to make it happen?
Ooh,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe he was a risk taker.
That was a softball. That was a slow pitch softball right there.
He probably didn't even call it risk. He probably called it like
tanks.
Yeah, tanks.
Death.
He probably called it friendship ruining game.
Amity.
Whatever that means in French. Whatever that is in French, that's probably what it Le fujeux, meaning ender of friendships. So so he is the designer. Like I said, he was a French filmmaker. He was a producer and a writer. So he's best known for his films Red Balloon and White Mane.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so you're a film buff, Alex. Explain to me. I'm a little familiar with Red Balloon because I looked it up before we started here.
Yes.
Do you know what else do you know about those movies? Are you familiar with them?
I knew nothing else except about Red Balloon. But Red Balloon, I believe, was something that either I watched in film school in college or one of my friends through film school introduced it to me, and pretty good.
Okay.
It's enjoyable. So I assume his other one was also enjoyable.
And you can look it up on YouTube. I mean, it's available. It's just to watch the whole thing. It's only about like a little over a half hour, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's not long.
Pretty short. It's just about a boy walking through what I think is Paris, and he finds a red balloon. And poor kid. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I only watched like the first 5 minutes of it because I have other things to do. But the poor kid he wasn't able to get on the bus because of his red balloon.
Yeah.
They didn't let him on the bus. That was really sad to me. And he just because he had a red balloon.
You know, some people.
That's not a spoiler either.
Some people are just balloonists, and they just don't. They don't believe in balloons.
Right. Yeah. It's like another kid walks on with like an ice cream cone. I'd be like, I'd be a little bit more concerned about the ice cream cone than I would with the balloon. But anyway. So he patented the idea for Risk in 1954. He sold the copyrights to a French game publisher named Miro in 1957,
Mm,
who
mhm.
then released a game called, and again, I don't speak French, I apologize, but I'll put it up on the screen here. It's La Conquista de Monde, which basically means the conquest of
Conquest
the
of the
world.
world. Yeah, interesting.
And then in 1959, Parker Brothers bought the North American rights and released Risk, the Continental game. And so that's 1959 is kind of where Risk as we know it kind of was born, 1959.
All right.
And since then, we've had multiple
glorious.
versions.
Glorious.
Many versions. So basically the original Risk was what Risk was from 1959 to about 1986.
Mhm.
And then 1986, since 1986, there's been about 19 different versions of the game that have been licensed and released. And this is most of them. So we already talked about the Lord of the Rings Risk. There's two different versions.
Yeah,
the trilogy
that
edition.
was mine. The trilogy edition. That was mine.
Yeah. Yep. And then there's an expansion of Gondor and Mordor. I've never seen before I researched this Plants vs Zombies. I don't understand what that is, nor do I really have any interest in looking into it. I mean, I do definitely, but for a later time. But yeah, obviously we got Star Wars, we got Metal Gear Solid. Legacy Risk is like, if I understand it correctly, I've never done it. I should, but I just don't have any time anymore. But Legacy Risk, I think, is something where you play over. You play one game and then you finish, and then it picks up again later on. So it's kind of a game that takes months, if not years, to play because you're just constantly changing. Castle Risk here in the background was the kind of the second version that came out in 1986, I believe. And then from there we got all these other versions. So here, I'll put us in the middle here. This is Napoleon Risk over here, and then this one up on the top left I think is like a Brazilian edition.
I love the name is just called War. Like War Risk. Yeah. Let's just be honest. It's just war. That's what it all is.
It's just war. What is it good for? So this is the board. This is the Risk board. This is kind of your standard Risk board. If you haven't noticed yet, it's a map, and it's a political map of the world.
Sort of political map. Yeah.
Am I using that term correctly?
No. Well, no. You are using it correctly, but it's like a sort of political in that, like, North Africa is like a region. Right. That's not a country.
Right. Yeah. And they do it that way so that you can actually have space to put the pieces on the board.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, you're conquering like a little country in Africa, and like you can only fit like one piece on the board.
You have taken Togo, or you have taken Belize. I can see that. The War of Belize. That's it's a big deal.
You have conquered Transconstany. Like what? I don't even know what that is. It's like, well, you conquered it and then you left it all in one move. But this is the board. So we have about 6 different continents, different regions that are all separated into smaller territories. And that's a standard Risk board. Some versions of the game zoom in to different regions of the map. So you'll see some European Risk games specifically, or Mediterranean games. And then obviously you have other fantasy maps like Lord of the Rings and the Star Wars that we saw in the last one. So there's that. These are the pieces. Each player picks a color and collects their pieces. These are essentially armies or units that will be placed on the board to claim territories. So what we're looking at now, listeners, is basically kind of your standard Risk pieces. You have an infantryman, a cavalryman, and cannon, which can be represented as artillery. And you have them in 6 different colors: gray, yellow, red, black, green, blue, and some of them are tan, some of them are different colors. So I would say here on the left we're looking at kind of the modern day Risk pieces. Some of them are a little different depending on the genre that you're working with. So these are the pieces that will occupy the different territories on the board. So, for instance, the infantry soldier here would represent 1 unit. He'd be 1 unit for that territory. The cavalry would represent like 5 units, let's say, and then the artillery would represent 10 units. So usually it's 1, 3. Here, I'm covering that up, but it's usually 1, 3, 5, or 10 that are represented with these pieces. So on the left here, we have 1, 3, 1, 5, and 10. I would assume. But then over here on the right, we have kind of an older photo of how the pieces used to be. And again, this is probably closer to what that box in the opening slide was showing. But they're actually Roman numerals, so you can see 1, 3, 5, and 10.
How very Roman.
Yeah, right? Isn't that great? So some people like to assign different numbers to different units. It kind of just depends on the people you're playing with. But the 1, 5, 10 rule is usually a good one to go through. You can also do 1, 3, 8, whatever you want to do. So we got kind of the newer edition, older edition. These are the units that you place on the board and push them around. And then there you go. So that's what it looks like when you start playing. The goal of the game is to conquer every territory on the board. Players accomplish this by attacking neighboring territories in the area and slowly taking over continents, which help them build their armies. So I'll kind of go over some of the ways to set up the game. So the easiest, probably the most common way to set up the game. Most Risk games will come with like territory cards, so you just draw territory cards and then place a unit on the board. So if you drew this territory, you just start off by placing it there. And it kind of randomizes it for everybody. So you kind of have different territories that you own at the beginning of the game. The way I played it with my friends growing up was we did a territory bid, which we basically just rolled to see who went first, and then that person placed a unit in a territory that they wanted. Is that how you played it?
Yeah, that's how we played. Or if they had cards, we do the card thing.
Right. I love the territory bid because it starts the game right off the bat. So now we're going into the actual gameplay and the dice rolling and all that kind of stuff. So each player's turn consists of 3 different things. So you can gain reinforcements through basically the number of territories held, and that you control at the end of your turn. Sometimes you can get reinforcements through territory cards as well, or bonus cards. You attack other players using a simple combat rule, comparing the highest dice rolled for each side. You can attack as often as you desire. One enemy territory is successfully taken, the player is awarded with a bonus card. And then last but not least, you can move your units across the board, usually just 1 territory at a time. So when you attack somebody, you roll dice. Those are the red dice that you see here. Attacker rolls 3 dice, or however many dice that they have to attack with. The defender rolls 2 dice. So you'll see I put these photos here for an example. So if, let's say, Peru is attacking Brazil here, then Brazil would only get 1 dice to roll, and Peru would get 3 dice to roll because they have looks like 11 units here. But let's say they have 2 up there, so this is what they roll. So in this case, you start with the highest die rolled, which is 4, and you start with the highest die rolled on the defending end. 4 beats 3, so they lose a guy. 3 beats 2, they lose a guy. That's pretty much how you do it. All right. Down here, we see that the attacker has rolled 2 6s. The defender defends 1 6 with their own 6, so that's a tie. Defenders win ties, and they don't lose anything. And then also, the defender rolled a 3 against the attacks. Sorry. The attack rolled 6, but the 3 doesn't defend against the 6, so the defender loses 1. So both players would lose 1 unit in that. Yep, 1 and 1. So this is a 2-0 attacker, 1 and 1. And then this is a situation where the attacker loses 2, which is very frustrating.
Oh, I hate that.
Very frustrating. But yes, so the attacker here has rolled a 5 and a 4 as their highest roll, and then we have 5 and 4 matched on the defending end, so the attacker loses 2 because they lose ties. I do want to talk about the different continents. You get extra reinforcements by owning different continents. Obviously, everybody loves Australia, and everybody loves Asia. Asia gives you seven extra units to place at the end of your turn if you own all of Asia. But again, that's if you own all of these territories.
Yep.
That's a lot of space to own.
I found it fascinating too that Europe is worth 5. Even like it's definitely like a product of its time of like Napoleon era politics. Right. Whereas I feel like Africa actually should be worth 5 and Europe should be worth 3. I know that's controversial, but that is
it is. It is a little controversial because Africa is a little easier to defend. When I look at a risk board, I look at access points. So when you look at a country or you look at a continent like South America or Australia, especially Australia, and this is why Australia is a favorite for early game players, because it's cornered. There's no other way there. It's got one way in and out, right? As long as you can defend this, you're good, right? South America is similar. It's only got a 2-point access, right? The territories that or the continents that give you the most points have a lot of access points. So you're talking about Europe. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost about 6 or 7 different access points in Europe. So it's super hard to defend. So if you can defend it and keep it, then it makes sense. But Africa's kind of got more of a 1, 2, 3. If you can just defend these 3 areas right here,
Interesting.
So that's kind of how I look at it. So that I can kind of justify it that way a little bit. Okay. But you're right. You're right. It's kind of Africa seems like it should be almost equal to what Europe is.
It's also like 10 times the size of Europe.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Which we'll get
into that.
So
yeah, we'll get into
that.
We're
talking about perspective as well.
Yeah.
So that's how much those continents are worth at the end. And then I just threw this in here. So at the end of the game, obviously you win by controlling all of the territory. So I kind of did how the game should end over here, which is one color across the board, versus how games pretty much always end.
Always.
And for you listeners, you can't see the joke. I understand that, but it's a bunch of guys around. It's a Monopoly board, but it's the same thing.
It's the same principle of emotion.
Just imagine it's the Risk board, and the guy is just flipping the board over and ruining everybody's night. And that's pretty much how the game usually ends. All underneath a famous meme, Boromir saying, "One does not simply finish a game of Risk." And so true. So very true. So there you go. That's our game for the month, our map game for the month. And I think it's a good fit. So
it's great.
Do you have any Risk stories? What was your childhood with Risk?
Okay. So I can tell you 3 stories, at least stories of where we played it. I feel like because it's so long, you kind of get acquainted to where you're playing. Our church used to do a fall retreat every weekend. Every weekend. Every weekend. It was
commitment.
Yeah, committed and expensive. No, it was during it was a weekend in October every year, and I was in middle school, 7th or 8th grade, and I had discovered it, and so my friends and I played it. And I remember we played it in one of the cabin apartment places at the because it was a retreat in the mountains. So we played it for 2 days, and I don't know who won, but it was so fun. And then we played at the beach a lot. That was a good beach game.
At the beach?
No, not directly at the beach. At the beach house where we would stay.
Oh, okay. That's gotta be horrible.
That would be
sand getting on the board.
And a 3. Well, guys, we played so long. High tide has now come. Low tide is sayonara. It is bye. It is not around.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so there's that.
Yeah.
But probably my favorite was playing, my brother and I still do this, but playing Lord of the Rings Risk in particular, and listening to a Lord of the Rings soundscape audiobook by the illustrious Phil Dragish online. Yeah. It was amazing. And for those of you who might know what I'm talking about, you'll know that is an experience like no other. And there's nothing quite like listening to that while playing Lord of the Rings Risk. It was very much on brand.
That's great.
It was fun.
Yeah, that's great.
So those are mine.
I strongly encourage, if you haven't found a good website, there's a lot of them out there that actually they just have different themed sounds, like ambiance. Just search for it. I think there's one specifically. I should plug it, but I'm sorry, I'm forgetting what it is, and I'm not going to look it up. But it's you just type it in, and you type in the board game that you're playing, and it'll give you different options for different sounds. So if you're playing a train themed board game, then you'll hear train whistles in the background and stuff. I strongly encourage you.
To
do that at next game night.
My brother has a Settlers of Catan playlist, unofficial playlist. So like it's fun.
Nice.
It's fun having music and or sounds to go with what you're playing.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, that Risk at the Beach made me think of a Seinfeld episode where Kramer and Newman are playing Risk, and they won't trust each other, leaving them alone with the board, so they carry the board around with them everywhere they go. I'm just like, that's so unrealistic. Like, nobody touches the board. Like, it's a rule of Risk. Like, you don't touch the board.
Don't touch the board.
Nobody touch it. Like,
No, you can't. It's sacred. It's holy ground, basically.
Yeah.
It's like you cannot do that.
And then somebody walks in, they're like, "Hey, can you pass me like I don't know, pass the newspaper, or pass the magazine?" They just throw it across.
Right,
no,
wait, no. No, actually, and I remember one of the key things that was about Risk that was different from like Stratego or Settlers of Catan is because it's a time investment. You really have to think ahead of time where you place the board, because if you place it on the dinner table,
right,
guys, you're not going to finish the game. It's like it's inevitable that you'll lift the board, someone will sneeze like I just did, and everything will go everywhere. Yeah. So like that was one thing at the beach. It's like, yeah, you have to know where you're going to play first. Or you start really early in the day and tell people, guys, it's lunch. Let's just eat outside or something. So
yeah, and just bring caution tape and just pull it all around the table.
Only with Risk though. That's the only game I've ever known. Where
it really is.
That's a thing.
I can't not talk about my Risk stories growing up. Man, so many. So I played Risk. I started playing Risk in high school. Mostly young high school, so probably around freshman, sophomore year. Every Friday night.
every Friday night? Really?
Yeah, every Friday night. I had a group of friends that would come over, guys. It was kind of a guys' night thing. We'd come over and we'd all play Risk together. Man, I should have gotten photos. I actually created a Risk board of my own. So when I was in college, I created a frame, a wooden frame, if you can imagine, just a rectangular wooden frame that's a little bigger than the size of your standard Risk board. And then I hand painted tiles.
Okay.
That were water, land. So it was blue if it was water, brown if it was land. And then I had other tiles that were half brown and blue. And there was a grid system to it all as well. So you could basically, there's hundreds of these tiles that I painted. I don't know where I got the time to do this. Hundreds of these tiles that I painted. And then basically I stored them all in two different toolboxes. And the idea was that you create the board every time you play it, and you create a different board. Okay. So what you would do is you would roll dice, and then just randomizing factors. So the dice would tell you how many continents the board would have. So you could have up to 12 continents basically on the board. And then there's a whole grid system laid out in that frame where you'd put the tiles, and it would build this other world. And then you put this huge sheet of glass on top of it, and you locked it in. And then you basically hand drew the territories onto the board. Wow. And everybody would take turns with a Sharpie drawing, and you can just wipe it off basically. But everybody would take turns hand drawing territories. And it's basically, the whole concept was, this is how territories are made, right? Like everybody kind of like decides how, like everybody gets a say in like where the territory lines are and everything, and based on how many players are playing, that's how many territories you have. Oh my goodness, it was crazy.
That's awesome.
I played it like 2 or 3 times, and I haven't touched it since.
That's crazy though that you guys went that complex. I feel like I didn't have I didn't know people specifically in my school, in high school, that were like super big Risk fans at the time. So the closest I got was at my youth group, which, you know, I saw those guys once a week kind of thing. My church was driving distance, like a 15-20 minute driving distance from where I lived. So none of the people that I knew at the time went to my high school. But yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm glad that's really cool. That's really cool you thought through that. Yeah.
There's still a classic disagreement with Risk. If you've ever played a game called Risk Godstorm, it was on that list of the games that I showed you, but it's basically a European map with and you get they have like an underworld map, so you can like go to the underworld, and there's different gods associated, like so you can have like different gods on the board that do different things for you. Anyway, there's still to this day like if I brought this up with Jacob Cooper, who is an avid
shout out to you, Jacob Cooper,
an avid Table Talk with Rich and Alex fan. He's probably watching this right now, thinking he's probably just seething because the argument of whether or not those icons were actually just symbols that did things on the board, or that they're actually units themselves. Oh my gosh.
We always think people, I wouldn't go to war. Oh, I wouldn't do this thing. Risk is the number one way to realize that. No. Yeah. We're all human in many different ways.
Yeah. All it takes is an alliance to break. That one alliance that, like, if all he did, I just need him one more turn. He just needs to hold his ground, and then he just turns all of his units against you, and you're like, all right, you're dead to me.
And that's when the board flips. Pieces everywhere.
Yep, exactly. But that's going to be the conversations that we're having moving forward, guys. So we're talking about our maps. We're talking about maps that stay up like Alex's, and maps that fall down like mine. And we're talking about everything in between as far as what's involved with maps and the types of maps. What type of things do you want to talk about this month, Alex, when it comes to maps and map related topics?
That's a good question. All right, so I want to talk about old maps. Because I think old maps are a lot of fun, and I actually have an old map. I have a reproduction of an old map, not an old map itself.
You physically have it with you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But I'm not revealing it yet. You guys will have to watch the episode.
I'm intrigued.
In particular, I'm really interested about fantasy maps, because I think that fantasy maps is where it's at, and frankly, that's the one reason a lot of times why people get into maps in the first place, because of some sort of fantasy map pop culture. And then we talked about this, but different maps for varying reasons. I feel like there's like the difference between political and physical map, for instance. No one really talks about this. However, for cartographers, which is a map guy person, map individual.
I think that's the actual. If you type it in Google, I think that's the exact description that comes up. Map guy person.
Map guy person. Map man or map woman. And then what was that? Of course, I really want to get into for like another topic is Google Maps. We've talked about this, but I think that Google Maps is ubiquitous for most everybody, unless you're still hanging on to MapQuest, which kudos to you if you are, because MapQuest does exist, everybody. It still does. So I want to kind of have some fun with that. And then finally, I want to, as per usual, near the end, I want to talk about movies with maps, or map movies. This one, I think, is going to be a little bit of a challenge for you and me, because I had to do some thinking about this, and I'm sure you did too. So I'm looking forward to that if you're up for that challenge.
But yeah, those are the episodes coming up. Be sure to like, subscribe to the content, guys. If you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. Click the bell to get notifications on all the other episodes that are coming up. And then if you're listening, again, like I said at the top of the episode, it's going to be a visual series this month. So tune into the YouTube channel to get all the content that we can. But we appreciate you listening and hanging in there with us. Until next week, guys.
Be happy.
Brew happy.
And game on.
Cheers, Alex.
Cheers. I have Peru, by the way.
You have what?
Peru in Australia and North America.
Peru.
I'm taking it all over, man.
Oh,
I'm rolling all sixes every single time.
No, I have a Spartan soldier in Peru. You cannot take it.
Ooh.
He will defend it. He will defend it to the death. And that death is coming right now.
The odds are 10-1. Good enough for any Greek. Something like that.